is only last. We record करोगे तो
So
गड़बड़.
we have the agenda and
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the e-learning series on climate change and cities, which is being conducted by Climate Center for Cities, NIUA, and WRI India. So this series is going to take place over the next 2 months, and is aimed to build a common understanding of climate change and urban development. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Rajshekhar, who is heading the Climate Center for Cities at NIUA, to give the welcome remarks. Mahesh.
thank you, Ankita. Good morning and a warm welcome to Shri Kunal Kumarji, Joint Secretary and Mission Director, Smart Cities, Shri Hitesh Vaidyaji, Director, NIUA, Shri O.P. Agarwalji, CEO, WRI India, Dr. Sanjay Kolteji, CEO, Pune Smart City, Mr. E.H. Patanji, General Manager, Deputy General Manager, Surat Smart City. Panelists and participants from the cities, a warm welcome. Today, we have a series of interesting initiatives which are being launched to build the capacity for city officials to help them in enhancing their climate actions. As you all know, the results of the Climate Smart City Assessment, which was recently launched by our Honorable Minister, Mr. Shri Hardeep Singh Puriji, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. The results from the assessment provide us with a roadmap along with areas of possible interventions which could facilitate in sustained climate actions on the ground. In that regard, I would like to share my screen and take you through the key findings from the recent assessment which was conducted. As you all know, this assessment is the second round of the assessment which was conducted. And it was very interesting to note that many of the cities did get separate training and capacity building sessions, and these were provided in 9 regional languages. And there was also a dedicated help desk which was organized, and then there were short orientation videos which were provided to the cities during this. Overall, we conducted 56 sessions, providing training to over 1,000 plus city representatives across 126 participating cities. And more number of queries and calls were also entertained to ensure that the assessment was successfully conducted. From the assessment results, many of the cities have progressed from being one-star cities, that is, they have not started thinking about climate assessment, to some of them progressing through 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star levels. These include formation of committees, collecting of data, creating strategies and plans in place. Some of the cities have progressed forwards by allocating budget and started implementing some of the climate actions. From the results, we can realize that cities have moved forward. And even though the assessment was taken up during the COVID scenario, while many of the progression has happened because of increased awareness among city officials in reporting to this particular framework, we can see a certain amount of cities have moved from 1-star to 2-star, and some have also moved from 2-star to 3-star. But that said, all the Indian cities have still a long way to go. And we believe that through these enhanced training and capacity building sessions, we can help the cities progress forward. Without further ado, I would request Shri O.P. Agarwalji from WRI to provide the opening remark. Sir, over to you.
I'm trying. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Mahesh. Thanks for that introduction. Lovely to see everyone on this call. I also see almost more than 80 participants to this call. So good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you. Just by way of a background, I mean, WRI works a lot on environmental issues. Climate change is a very important part of WRI's work. But for a long time, we have been thinking that climate change in India seems to be discussed at a very narrow, or seems to be discussed in a very limited way. But what we have been feeling is that if it is only left within the purview of the Ministry of Environment, it really will not see action on the ground. And there are 3 sectors where, or rather 4 sectors where a lot of work needs to happen on the ground. To my mind, energy, cities, transport, and forests are the 4 sectors where a lot needs to happen on the ground. So one day I had gone into Kunal's room in the ministry and said, how do we think of bringing climate thinking into how urban growth takes place or how urban planning takes place? And it was really a surprise for me, a very pleasant surprise for me, when he pulled out a little book, as Kunal typically does. He pulled out a little book and showed me the Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework that the ministry had prepared. I was really delighted. It was, I think, a phenomenal initiative that had been taken. And we feel really proud to have been part of the journey after that. To my mind, again, it's one thing to talk about climate, but unless people in the city or at the city level really understand what it means and why they're doing something, you won't get ownership of it. That's why helping them to fully understand what is climate all about, why are they doing things in a certain manner, why is it important to do that, I think without that, you won't get full ownership. They will just do it to check a box because Kunal has asked them to do that. I think what we need is a much better ownership of what is what they need to do and why they need to do it. It's really for that reason that I'm really happy that this learning series is being started. The only advice I would give at this stage is that in any learning series like this, for the kind of people who are going to be your participants, it's extremely important to make sure that it is interesting. They feel involved, they feel engaged, and unless we can make it interesting enough for them, they'll probably sleep through presentations or hear some part of the presentations, but won't take a message back. So I have always argued that the content is not as important as the pedagogy. The content is easy, everyone has the content, but how you transmit that content is the most important. So with these few remarks, let me sort of, I think we're all looking forward to listen to Kunal, but he's really the champion behind this. I'm really happy that he has taken this up. We feel proud to be part of that journey. Thanks very much, Mahesh, and over to Kunal.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mahesh. Good morning to all the participants from across the country, and of course, how can I forget? Good morning, Hitesh. NIUA is driving a large part of this. First of all, sir, thanks for the generous words. I think much more needs to be done, and we're all trying to do our bit on a very important subject, which is very important not only for us, but definitely much more important for our next generation and the next generations to come. And it is very important for us too, because of the kind of things that are happening around us and the potential impact it can have on populations. Just a few examples. I was extremely surprised. We were just searching for, because my daughter is going abroad to study, we're just looking at temperatures all around the place, and the places where we found in Canada to have an average temperature of 12 to 14 degrees are running 49, 50 degrees today. I was amazed. I mean, what is happening in a country where 15 degrees the average temperature, that place has 50-degree temperature today. I don't know whether it's because of climate change or what. Should make us think. And what's happening to rainfall patterns in our country? How does it's only not only about quality of life or humid atmosphere. It's about food security. It's about income security. It's about water security. It is about so many different things. How many things can get challenged just because small little bits of change in environment can make these possible? And why is this capacity building important, sir? In fact, honestly, if I reflect back as my role as municipal commissioner, and I've done three of them in the 3 cities, we hardly get time to think about these things. It's all the more important that it becomes easier for us to access the knowledge around it. How many of us in the cities will have the time and bandwidth to go through an IPCC report which says that if 1.5 degree temperature rise happens, then the world will have this and this and this problem. In fact, till very recently, in fact, not only normal, quote unquote, normal or general population, but even big leaders in the world have disputed the argument that climate change is causing any damage, and this is in natural progression of things. So that all the more makes it very important for us to understand that there is need for first understanding the dimensions of what is causing climate change. What is climate change all about? And how are we in the center of this storm? It's actually a very simple thing. For a long time, it was debated, and when and the most important break which has happened from natural increase vis-a-vis human-led increase in greenhouse gas emissions has happened post-industrial revolution, and it can be seen in the ice, the carbon that gets trapped in the ice cores, and it's a very conclusive evidence. So far, all the evidence was here and there, but very conclusive evidence, and this is only one of them, maybe others also, and I think Sir will be a better place to throw light on them. But what I can sense clearly is, as a practitioner, there is conclusive evidence that our activity is causing climate change to a great extent today. And therefore, it is very important for us to take stock of what we do first. And to understand these dimensions, we have to build capacity. We have to learn ourselves and be open to these ideas and absorb what is happening around the world as far as knowledge on what causes climate change is there. The second thing is that we are leaders. We are not only climate change readers or academicians. We are leaders in our own fields. And as cities, we are here not only to change our own ways of working as city governments, but also to rally around and advocate and make people understand and change not only the ways the city functions in many dimensions, other departments and other people, because there is definitely some reason why a municipal corporation is called Nagar Palika. It has to be the Palika of the city, and it has to take that onus of convincing every stakeholder. And today the smart city company, in a way, is a part of the Nagar Palika also, because it's a shareholder, important shareholder is Nagar Palika, and you play that role. And the SPV has to champion this. No smart city can call itself smart unless it is, thinking on these things. There is definitely, there are two ways to reaching your end. So people can take a very energy intensive way of increasing your economic growth and your infrastructure, or you can do it in a much more sustained manner. And so what is your role as a city leader, and how can you influence others, and what is it that you need to do, and what are city leaders across the world doing? These are areas of, secondly, these are the areas of emphasis on a capacity building around climate change. The third is about this entire concept of sustainable development. And this is again coming back as a reflection. I used to think of this word as a very esoteric, something which is very, sustainable development. What are you talking about? I have to do roads, I have to do drains, because I don't have money to do all the kinds of good stuff that you talk about. Now I realize that even if I drop a pin in somewhere in my room, some way or the other, it affects the sustainability of the environment. Now I realize that sustainable development is a more dynamic term. It's a dynamic equilibrium, which is affected by every action that we take. And think of it. Tomorrow you are taking out a tender for street lighting. The kind of street lighting you install in the city will decide the course of sustainable development in your city. The next road you build, the next water system you do, the leakages you prevent. These are only as city governments. And think of the kind of influence you can have if you can convert a lot of the energy that is consumed in the city to solar, a lot of the mobility, as Sir was talking about, to electric, or other cleaner sources of fuel. and the kind of impact. So these are everyday decisions for us as city commissioners and SPV CEOs. These are everyday decisions for us. And therefore, sustainable development is not sitting in a shelf, as you can see behind me. It is right in front of you, within your work, in your files, in your approvals every day. So to understand this gamut of work which is around sustainable development is the third thing that we have to probably focus on. And I'll come to the last point without taking much time. The last point is about effective communication, which is what Sir was talking about in the sense of pedagogy. I go beyond that in the sense of in the pedagogy. Now, yes, content is important. So content around sustainable development, content around city leaders' roles, content around climate change, content around the assessment framework itself, content around energy, green buildings, biodiversity preservation, content around air quality, all that is important. And that probably will be done very well because we have the technical expertise to do it. But where do we fail? And if I again reflect back, it is easy for a person to understand that you need better footpaths for people to walk. But why don't our cities have better footpaths? Where does the gap lie between the cup and the lip? Where is the slip? Where is the slip between the cup and the lip? Now, if you will find out, there are many small things. How do I convince my corporator? I am talking to a politician. He doesn't get influenced by the fact that I better reduce my carriage width and increase the width of the pedestrian area and the cycling track. This does not make sense at all to the corporator or even to the local traffic police. How do I convince them? How have other cities done that? So this is a troubleshooting methodology where you identify a list of bottlenecks which prevent these things to become mainstream, and you take on those in your capacity building programs through either peer-to-peer learning or documenting best case studies of places where they have been able to troubleshoot and then exposing it to other cities. There could be many others. Is there any example of good climate governance in cities? The one could be a cell, the other could be a joint working group, the third could be they have created a climate mayor, or fourth something else. What has worked, what has not worked? So any light you throw on that can influence the other 99 cities to, or maybe the other cohort of 500 cities to take up that, because they have now got a breakthrough idea. That breakthrough idea is not there, which is why they're stuck up. And sometimes these things take long, 1 year, 2 years, and they're stuck up, and the leader changes and everything goes back to square one and it doesn't start. So what I'm trying to hint is the content probably is easier to install in the brain, but the practice and the troubleshooting and the common areas of problems, if they are resolved by the team through a more practical, street smart approach. For example, Dr. Kolte is here from Pune. I'll give you an example of I'll just stop with this because I think this is important. 2 examples. One we wanted to convince the population around 24/7 water supply and then increased taxation and need for the increased taxation. Now, 3 months we were breaking ahead and Pune had not raised water taxes for about 15 years. And it was impossible to convince everyone. It seemed almost a fait accompli that water is never going, it's a free commodity. It is definitely not to be taxed, and whatever is being given is almost like a charity. We had to actually change the argument, and this happened because of so what we did was we were talking of 50% increase and all. We then went down to the paisa level. We said 900 rupees per family per month hota hai, per year hota hai, which makes it 75 rupees per family per month, which makes it 15 rupees for a family of 5, 15 rupees per person per month, which makes it 50 paisa per person per month, per day, for 150 liters of water. Now add the medicines you have because you get polluted water, add the RO filter, add the Syntex tank, add the 20 liter rupees you spend on a Bisleri bottle because your guest comes to your home, and then calculate the price. This is 0.93. What we are asking is 0.75. Are you okay? People say yes. Now, how you do this effective communication? Now, this probably happened by chance. Maybe we landed on this because we were, hell-bent on pushing this through. So if something like this is exposed to some other city, maybe, then on the roads project, all the time people would be in your office, 300, 400 of them. and they will be arguing with you कि इसके कारण से market हमारा खराब हो जाएगा, अब हमारे घरों में कोई नहीं आएगा, अगर ये इतना ज़्यादा pedestrian area होगा तो बहुत congestion हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा. And then you find that in those meetings, there are 5 people who lead the argument always, and the rest of the 455 people are just standing behind. And then you realize that you have to find 2 ways of dealing with this thing. The 5 लोगों को अलग से and 455 लोगों को अलग से. And then you realize you have to go independently into them. And then again, one realization came that probably there is now time after 6 months of looping and discussions. We finally arrived at a date in the night. The contractor had 28 people. We made him have 200 people that night. Overnight, we changed that street to a limited extent. The dialogue changed. The dialogue no more was about whether we want the street change. The dialogue was about how we want the street change. And these are technically easily explainable, but practically to talk about these kinds of troubleshooting is what makes things happen on ground. We need street smart capacity building. We need capacity building on things which works in practice. We need a capacity building on effective communication and convincing stakeholders and how others have done it. If we can follow that route, then these are intractable things. And world leaders are not getting convinced on climate change. Forget convincing your corporator. But एक style हमको develop करनी पड़ेगी in capacity building module से जिससे कि हम वो कर पाए. And then sky is the limit. Because once we were able to break through on that road, I can tell you, Kolte Saab will tell, every corporator came to me in my own tenure. हमारा भी एरिया ऐसा ही चाहिए. जब पहले जो दादागिरी विरुद्ध चल रही थी, everyone came back and said हमको यही चाहिए. So people align when they see good outcomes, when they see effective communication. That is the breakthrough moment all the cities in this call need to have, and our capacity building has to be focused on making that breakthrough possible. We are here as an IUA and Smart Cities mission to facilitate and support. We are not here to mandate. We are here to support you in your journey as a city leader, to convince your city and to lead your city to better climate outcomes. Please use us as much as possible to the best of your requirement and best of your needs, so that we are able to make whatever contribution we can to your journey when you are trying to become a better climate sensitive city. So thank you so much, Mahesh, for putting this together. Thank you, sir, for those words. And Hitesh for leading this at an IUA, and all the city leaders here who are here. I know you are here for a purpose, and I'm sure you're not here because I have wanted you to tick mark a presence. I hope so that's not the case. With those words, I'll stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. At this point, we would like to announce an initiative by C-Cube at NIUA. I would like to announce the launch of Climate Practitioners India Network, which is a first of its kind network for providing a platform for climate practitioners across India to engage with cities to build actions on ground. This network will facilitate online and offline collaborations for professionals and practitioners to work with cities, states, and national level institutions. Please, we would like to now play the video of the launch. We hope to initiate the activities of this Professionals Network soon, and you can join us at the details given on the screen. Now, moving on to the e-learning series, I invite Ms. Prerna Mehta, Associate Director, Urban Development, WRI India, to introduce the learning series. Meanwhile, I would also like to announce that this event is also happening live on Facebook, and I would share the link on the chat box for all your reference.
Thank you, Ankita, and I hope you can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Is my screen visible?
Yes. We can.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kunal sir, OP sir, and Mahesh for setting the context of the launch, and congratulations on the launch of Climate Practitioners India Network. In India, introduction of Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework has given impetus to build climate action in cities. In the past 3 decades, we have seen extreme weather conditions affecting different parts of the country, causing economic and livelihood losses. It must be noted that the frequency, intensity, and severity of these events have increased significantly and is often attributed to global warming and climate change. While we many times use these terms, global warming and climate change, interchangeably, we often do not know what they mean. We all know that Earth's atmosphere is made up of nitrogen, oxygen, argon, and less than 1% of other gases. These other gases include carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and different fluorinated gases, and are also known as greenhouse gases, as they cause the greenhouse effect, which keeps the Earth warm to sustain life. However, various human activities are contributing towards increase in the amount of GHG in the atmosphere. This increase in causing extra heat to be trapped within Earth's atmosphere, causing gradual increase in average global temperature of the Earth, or what we commonly refer to as global warming. This global warming is leading to climate change, which can be defined as long-term identifiable change in Earth's climate as a whole that lasts for extended period. Hence, it is imperative to note that the GHG emissions or greenhouse gas emissions are the root cause of triggering climate change. As the greenhouse gases doesn't know boundaries, every country needs to come together and do their bit. Partnership and collaborative efforts are what is required to combat climate change impact. Over the past 4 decades, the global climate action discourse has evolved into a comprehensive approach with focus on sustainable development. If we closely examine the evolution of climate action discourse, India has been an integral part of the same. 2015 was a landmark year of sorts, as with adoption of SDGs and Paris Agreement globally, India adopted SDGs and launched its indices for combating climate change impact. In 2019, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs launched one of its kind Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework for 100 smart cities. However, the question remained, why cities are crucial in the climate change conversation? According to the UN Habitat, cities are responsible for nearly 70% of greenhouse gases and are at risk due to increasing population densities and climate change impacts. However, at the same time, cities are in tactical position to offer solutions and develop strategies that are more comprehensive, innovative, and sustainable to mitigate these challenges and their impacts. They play a key role in steering climate action by implementing national level policies at the local level and enabling bottom-up diffusion of urban scale experiments. This also calls for building evidence-based capacities of stakeholders for holding the baton to mainstream climate action in development approach. Hence, the introduction of this e-learning series on climate change in cities. The aim of this learning series is to develop common understanding of cities around climate change and their role in mainstreaming climate actions through policies, regulations, planning, and implementation of programs and projects. The learning series will facilitate evidence-based learning by including various thematic experts and city officials to develop a primer for cities on climate change by sharing their experiences. To cover the vast subject of climate action by 5 sectors as indicated in the Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework, this e-learning series is designed in 10 parts and will cover how cities can mainstream urban resilience, can address air pollution, deploy nature-based solutions, promote green buildings, adopt innovation in mitigating climate change impacts, discuss urban freshwater ecosystem and their potential in climate-proofing cities, mainstream inclusive climate action planning, transition to electric mobility, undertaking GHG assessment, and lastly, how cities can adopt or improve non-motorized transport. With this, I would like to conclude that as cities advance the agenda of climate smart cities, they will contribute to India's target for combating climate change impacts. And this learning series will strive to empower cities for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Prerna. Now I would invite Ms. Vaishnavi Shankar, Lead Training and Capacity Building, to introduce the Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework training initiatives.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Could you just confirm if you can hear me and see the presentation? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Vaishnavi.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. I'm just going to quickly take you all through the other initiatives that we have under the Climate Center for Cities, specifically for the training and capacity building. So the Climate Center for Cities, as you all know, was established last year within NIUA in support with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs with the vision to build climate actions in cities. So in the center, we have 6 verticals, and one of them is dedicated to the capacity building, where our focus is basically to strengthen the capacity amongst urban practitioners and the city officials to apply a climate perspective to the projects and even the decisions that they may take, which can help reduce future risk and in a way enhance climate resilience. So the particular training that I'm going to talk about now is aligned with the Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework. So we've developed trainings for each of the indicators aligning to the framework, so which covers 5 themes and overall 23 training modules. And the training modules on waste management are aligned to the SBM e-learning modules, basically. So the results that was announced a few weeks ago, it helps cities understand where they stand with respect to the development when looked at the climate lens. And the framework in itself, with this progressive nature, kind of indicates to the cities as to what are the next steps they need to take to improve in that particular thematic area or the indicator which is of their interest. And it is in this juncture that we are aligning these training to each of these indicators, that the cities, when they want to progress in these indicators, that these capacity training modules will help them understand the steps that they need to take, and they can go ahead implementing that in their cities. And so, of course, these indicators also align to the national and international frameworks, like the SDG 6, 11, 13, and 15, and also can contribute to INDCs. So the cities will be able to track their contribution to these frameworks as well. So just a broad approach to the training. I think I'm going to reflect back to what OP sir said earlier today, which was about the trainings or anything that we do needs to be interesting, involved, and engaging. So that is exactly how we have kind of developed our training module. So it will be a maximum of 2 hours, and it will be virtual in nature. So we'll be doing multiple trainings, so the city officials can join based on their convenience as well. And we've limited the presentation to a maximum of 30 minutes, and we have a larger interactive exercise moving up to 90 minutes, where we can focus on equipping the participants with certain skills and decision making, as simple as how to go about stakeholder engagement, how do we map, what are the models we can use to engage them, and even spatial mapping skills, and also sort of a step-by-step process as a checklist that the cities can follow and adopt across each of these indicators. And overall, there'll be a list of knowledge materials that will be available for future reference. These kind of include like the templates for DPRs, like I said, the checklist, and tools that are available which can aid them in spatial analysis, visual analysis, and even decision making, and other sorts of best practices and other references that the cities can always refer back to at a later point. And the approach basically that we're following is to begin with from next week, we'll be rolling out these training. And moving forward, we'll be also associating with the training institutes to scale up these trainings regionally. And eventually, all of these trainings will also be available as e-courses on the National Urban Learning Platform. So at any given point of time, anyone has access to these training and the material that will help them to develop climate actions. So most of these training modules are also developed in association with the Climate Smart Alliance partners. We have GIZ India, WRI, Clean Air Asia, RMI, and the India Smart Grid Foundation, with whom we are co-developing most of these training modules. Just quickly to take you all through the other capacity building initiatives, we also have something called a masterclass. This is sort of a peer-to-peer learning between senior city administrative officials. So if I can reflect back on what Kunal sir said earlier, something to do with troubleshooting. So we're hoping this can help cities in that particular aspect as to how they can kind of streamline the administrative decisions considering the operational and financial feasibility for adopting climate actions. And of course, the e-learning series, which is also designed in a format where we have the expertise, national and international expertise that comes on board, and also the city representatives who can also share their experiences. So a mix of both is something that we hope can help cities address the technical and also the on-ground sort of issues, the challenges that they may face. In addition, we also have podcasts and webinars where we bring expertise and innovation, which is at the intersection of sustainability, climate change, and urban development, basically to provide insights to urban professionals who can, moving forward, become the climate practitioners and help the cities on ground, and can also benefit from the work that is basically happening in their cities. So all of these events, the learning series and the dedicated training modules aligned to the CSEF will be available on our website in the events page. And we'll also be sharing weekly calendars with everyone, so you all can join in based on your convenience. And we hope we have a lot more people from the cities joining in and hopefully benefiting from this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. So that was the detailed initiatives taken by C-Cube for capacity building and innovation. We have representatives from the cities of Pune and Surat who will share their experiences, who are here to share their experiences with us. I invite Dr. Sanjay Kolte, CEO Pune Smart City Development Corporation Limited, to please share his reflections.
Yeah, thank you, Ankita. I'll just share my screen. Can it be seen by all?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I thank NIU and Smart City Mission for giving this opportunity to present some of the initiatives of Pune Smart City. Pune has received recently some recognitions like 5-star rating in terms of energy and green buildings, and in the sector of waste management also. we have 4-star rating for urban planning, green cover and biodiversity, and 3 stars in mobility and air quality and water management. Also, Pune has been among the 50 champion cities which have been chosen by Bloomberg Philanthropies in the Mayor's Challenge 2021, especially because of the electric vehicle readiness plan, which Pune Municipal Corporation has initiated, and they are also planning to establish electronic vehicle EV fund for incentivizing the use of electric vehicles. The smart city plan of Pune smart city sector wise includes some of the projects like in transport sector we have 26 in the plan, livability 16 projects, water management 9 projects, waste management 3 projects, health and education we have 2 projects, and smart solutions 4 are there. Now in terms of the SDGs regarding poverty, we have launched a Mera Thela application. It's an interface between the street vendors and customers. Then we have also implemented 4 lighthouse projects wherein more than 4,000 women were given skill development trainings. In terms of good health and well-being, we have health management information system which is under development, and more than 60% of the work is already completed, wherein all the 88 health institutions of Pune Municipal Corporations will be linked, and through 21 modules therein, the work of health department will be integrated. Then in terms of quality education, we have digital education system which is being developed, and almost 70% of the work is completed. Education content of from 1st to 10th standard from the state board students is being developed in this. We have already developed 3 smart schools. We are also planning to go for riverfront development. Smart elements and integrated command and control center is already functional. We are developing 20 placemaking sites which are in various stages of development. Some of them, 5 of them have already been completed, which includes initiatives like solar lights and gardens and greenery, shrubbery in that. Solid waste management projects, green cover and biodiversity are also some of the projects which contribute to the sustainability. So I will be mentioning 2 marquee projects of Pune Smart City. First one is the e-bus, wherein we have procured 150 e-buses through the Pune Mahanagar Municipal Transport and Pune Smart City. And the objective was to reduce the air pollution and also the cost without any additional cost to the citizens. Efficient bus service without any breakdowns and without any maintenance problems. These e-bus projects were launched. It is based on the gross cost contract model, and Pune Smart City has contributed in terms of on the financial front in terms of subsidy of amounting to almost 45 crores is being given for procuring 150 e-buses. 149 of these buses have already been procured, and they are plying in the city. They have already traveled 5.32 lakh kilometers, and thereby the fossil fuel saving has been to the extent of 1.52 lakh liters so far. There has been a significant reduction in the noise pollution also, and the noise level to 74 dB are being maintained. It has also been observed that the TCO2%, which originates from the public transport, has also been reduced from 7% to 4% due to use of these e-buses. The PMPML has also gone for disposal of the old batteries through their e-waste scrap recycle policy. And on the citizen front, again, My Card, a contactless smart card based payment option has also been made available to the citizens. So this project is contributing to the climate resilience. Another project of Pune Smart City of street lighting has been contributing to climate resilience indirectly, wherein we have replaced sodium vapor and mercury vapor lamps. Almost 93,370 lamps have been replaced with high energy efficient LED lights with luminary standards. The system is centrally controlled and it also has smart dimming capabilities. This is also executed through Tata projects on a PPP basis without any financial burden on the either on the smart city or the citizens of Pune. Thereby, we were able to reduce its 58% of energy in the street light sector. 6% reduction in carbon footprints is also has been achieved in the last 3 years. In the 1 year, almost 1.73 million kilowatt hours energy is saved, which amounts to almost rupees 10.4 crores. Main highlights of these projects are the citizen safety because of the efficient lighting in the city. Then energy saving is the main highlight, centralized control, and the reduced maintenance. The highlights of this project. Recently, we have entered into a MOU with Indian Green Building Council, which is working in the field of creating sustainable green initiatives in the city, green buildings, and also sustainable built environment in Pune. And both our agencies will be going ahead with feasibility studies, capacity building, awareness and outreach programs for promoting green buildings in the city. Secondly, we have also formed a collaboration with Pune Knowledge Cluster, which is an organization formed under the Niti Aayog, and they are working in the field of climate resilience and sustainable mobility. To start with, we have jointly launched the Adopt a Sapling program. Just today morning itself, we have started this program. And the aim is to involve the participation of the citizens in promoting greenery and nurturing the saplings. We also plan to go ahead with bringing together a distinguished talent pool in the city, bring about brainstorming for innovative solutions to the problems in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing those innovative initiatives that Pune has undertaken. Before we proceed to the next city, we have a question for Kunal sir and OP sir from Dr. Pratima Singh. The question is that we have heard about climate and SDGs linkage, and how should cities try to incorporate SDGs, climate and air pollution together? Are cities preparing any long-term strategies to be sustainable, and what are the implementation plans? So.
Well, if you see, there are two parts to this question in spirit. One is the planning part of it. The second is building action around these important ideas. Sustainable Development Goals is the overarching framework under which most of the work, even including climate, is happening. And if you see the broad focus within the mission, and now that we've gone beyond the mission also, is on 3 pillars, which is sustainability, building economic ability, and livability. And most of the work that is happening is in tune with, but not exactly as per the SDG framework. And that is another step that we need to take to align all the actions that we are doing, which are mostly aligned, but still to create that full synergy with the SDG framework is definitely a work that is in progress, and that needs to be taken to a logical conclusion. And also the alignment with the climate actions that are being proposed, and the climate action plans that all the cities are making. Now, those cities which are non-attainment cities as far as national air quality standards go, are also creating the clean air action plan. There are too many action plans happening, and a very good point has been made that they need to converge in one umbrella in the city, which is definitely a work that need to focus in the future. And we are moving step by step in that direction. I'm sure the kind of capacity building that we are initiating today and the kind of partnerships we have with organizations like WRI, GIZ, and many others will help us come to that stage of maturity where we are able to look at these things in an integrated way. However, just doing the planning would make it look like an exercise which is still in the air and not really being visualized in a tangible fashion, which is where there is a lot of importance of practice being developed, and the kind of thing that Pune CEO talked about electric buses, or even this thing like adopt a sapling, or maybe street lighting. So these are areas of work which need to be deepened, and they need to influence the plans, and the plans need to influence them in a virtuous cycle, which also is a part of the process that Climate Center for Cities and NIUA and then the mission itself is trying to champion across. So work in progress, that is the goal, and we have to reach towards integration of efforts and optimization of the kind of, because we don't have all the resources, manpower, everything that is needed to put together these programs in cities. So if you bring together synergies, then definitely it will lead to a more success, focused and targeted action, and improved outcomes for everyone. So I'm not providing an answer probably, but maybe not providing a clear-cut solution as this is what we've done. But on the larger canvas, this is the roadmap, and it includes action as well as planning, and they lead to each other in a virtuous cycle. Is probably that I want to reflect on while I answer this question.
Thank you, sir. I hope.
Sir se bhi baat kar le.
Yeah. Sir, OP sir, would you like to add something to that?
There's nothing I can add to what Kunal has said, but I think you should really call upon Hitesh to also respond to this. It's a good question. My only point is, completely agreeing with Kunal. A city is not about, let's say, having electric vehicles but no electricity, or having toilets but no water. I think that whole element of integration and everything coming together is not about having houses only. It's not about having, water only. It's sort of, I think the whole thing of integrating the development of a city is critical. And that's what, that's what I understood what Kunal said. And that I think is absolutely right. That's why I'm trying to work with both Kunal and Hitesh to see if we can put together a program for building leadership with things in this integrated manner. I think that would be, to my mind, that's critical. Otherwise, very often we tend to look at it in pieces, and that's not the best solution to my mind. But I think Hitesh will have the real response to this. I do hope you have time.
I don't think so. I can add more than what Kunal sir and you have talked about, sir. But I think the key word both of you have talked about is integration, and I think that's the key to take it forward. And I think because we were talking about SDGs and new urban agenda, I think if you look at all of them, they also talk about that it's not only the planning which is sufficient, but planning has to be linked with the rules and regulations. It has to be linked with the financing plan contours, and also the focus has to be on a local implementation, which is capacity building, hand holding and others. So I think integration of all these aspects together will be the key to take it forward. So that's what I can add at this moment of time. I hope the person asking the questions.
I suppose it's back to you, Ankita.
Have we lost?
So I think there is some.
It seems Ankita is not happy with the answer. She's
yeah, I think.
I think there is some trouble with Ankita's side. So let me take over and invite Mr. E.H. Patan from Surat Smart City to provide his presentation. Sir, please.
Thank you so much for inviting Surat Smart City to make the presentation on the smart city assessment framework and performance of the city with respect to the framework which has been decided under the smart city mission. I will run presentation from my office, and I think yeah, is it visible?
So the
No,
presentation
not as
is not visible, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
I hope it's visible. Next. I will cover the what Surat has done to with respect to the climate smart city assessment framework. What are the schemes which are being run by state government and work done by Surat Smart City for energy and green building, urban planning, mobility and air quality, water management and waste management. So you can see that we are having a 4 stars in energy and green building, mobility and air quality, water management, and 5 stars in urban planning and green cover and biodiversity, whereas 5 stars in waste management. We are best performing city. I will just bring that the state government has launched many schemes and under which we are also working to get benefit from this scheme, like Gujarat Electricity Policy 2021 for electrical vehicles, Gujarat Solar Power Policy 2021 to reduce the power cost of the industrial units around 50%. Gujarat Waste to Energy Policy 2016 to facilitate and promotion of utilization of the municipal solid waste as a renewable resource to generate the electricity. And we are also working with Italy South Asia to end the plastic waste to develop Surat as a plastic waste free city. Now I will show you how Surat has performed, how Surat has done a few works related to the framework parameters. You see Surat having electricity consumption of 683 kilowatt hour per capita, out of which more than 19% electricity is being generated through the renewable sources. And we have street lighting of about 83% in a city, which are energy efficient street light. We have also future planning for waste to energy plants. We are planning for renewable energy sources, like we have also set up the wind power plant, and we are also going to set up new wind power plant in Saurashtra region. We are planning to go for the CNG, PNG and renewable energy vehicles. SMC has also started activities for green building and leading city in India to develop the same pathway. If I go to the urban planning and green cover sector and biodiversity, we have almost 40% proportion is with the green cover, and we have also GIS maps of water bodies and open areas. We have last year 4 lakhs saplings. We have planted 4 lakh saplings this year, and tree plantation has been taken up with NCC, NSS, various schools and NGOs and various clubs. We have also done theme plantation like Viranjali Vans, Rasi Van, Nakshatra Vans, Oxygen Parks, etc. We have also free distribution system which has been given through WhatsApp messages and mobile apps. We have planned for biodiversity park in 80 hectares of the waste reclaimed land, which has been reclaimed under the creek development projects. We have 6 lakhs big trees planted in this area. We have planned cycle track. We have planned water bodies and play area also. Similarly, Surat has also prepared the climate action plan and implementing the works related to the climate action plans. We have also proposed a riverfront development and rejuvenation project. Under the phase 1, we are going to develop 10 kilometers of river, and under second phase, 23 kilometers rivers will be developed under this riverfront development project. The aim of this project is to improve the water quality, to create a recreation avenues, road network along the bank, and create the employment as well as the opportunity. We have also proposed a Dumas Sea phase development in a city, which is going to be set up in next few years. Next. Particularly in mobility and air quality sector, we have BRTS network of 102 kilometers with 166 buses on 12 routes. We have 156 stations, which are 500 to 550 meters spaced. Total network of our city bus is 286 kilometers within city and more than 50 kilometers in Surat Urban Development Authority. We have 43 routes with 575 buses. We have also ordered 150 e-buses. Out of that, 12 buses are also plying on the roads on BRTS route. Next. Pilot project of the bicycle sharing scheme has also been implemented, and presently 53% of the transport network is through bicycle sharing network under the smart city mission. Next. If you see the future planning, we are going to purchase 150 more electrical buses in phase 2 under the FAME India scheme, and Surat has also made budgetary provision of 100 crores of rupees for the transport vehicles of the solid waste management scheme to be converted into electrical vehicles. Surat Metro has also been taken up by with a cost of 12,000 crores of rupees. 38 metro stations are going to be developed, and work has already started in January of 2021. Particularly for the air quality monitoring system, we have 2 continuous air monitoring system which has been developed under Smart City Mission, and total 10 locations we have identified with Pollution Control Authority, which we are going to set up in next year. Next. These are the stations, air quality monitoring stations. These are manual monitoring stations which has been set up and developed by Pollution Control Authority. So in accordance with the CPCB guideline and the specifications, we are also going to set up the continuous air monitoring stations in next year. This is the monitoring, the parameters which were in 2019 and 2020. There has been a drastic change. 2020, we have improved air quality in city of the Surat. The parameters are now well within the limits. It is also due to the COVID situation and also the municipal infrastructure work which has been taken up by Surat Municipal Corporation and Suda area. Next. For the water management sectors, we have 8 waterworks. 90%, 95% of the area is covered under comprehensive system. We have 1600 million liter capacity of the water treatment plants, and we have been supplying more than 1200 million liter per day. The average frequency is 3.5 hours per day, and under the smart city area, we have set up a 24/7 water supplies system, and therefore there has been a drastic reduction in the non-revenue water that has come to now 16%, which was normally it was 25 to 30% previously. We have 11 numbers of the sewage treatment facility and 3 tertiary level treatment facility to supply the treated water to the nearby industries. These are the clips of water supply and tertiary level treatment facility set up in Surat Municipal Corporation. We have presently 115 million tertiary level treatment facility, and we have been generating 140 crores of rupees per annum after selling this water to Sachin and Pandesra Industrial Estate. We have also taken a project of 1 MLD decentralized treatment plants to fill the lakes or to develop the lake and to use this water for the gardens, roadside dividers, and other purposes. We have also developed double plumbing system in EWS housing colonies and set up the tertiary level treatment plants over there also to use the water for flushing and other purposes. We have also taken Tapi Suddhikaran plant with 971 crores of rupees with National River Conservation Directorate, and this covers all the area from city to the Kakrapar Weir, which is 85 kilometers away from the city. The water which is being discharged untreated from city area for urban development authority or the district level area, which has to be diverted into the sewage treatment facility and has to be treated properly for its reuse. Total 370 million liter of water which will be treated under this facility and which will be utilized for the non-industrial purpose. This work will be completed in next 2 years. And this facility, Tapi Suddhikaran project is a very unique project which covers municipal limit, urban limit, as well as the district area of Surat. Next. For waste management sector, we are the second cleanest city. We have 5R policies over here. We have decentralized waste management plants. 152 organic waste converters are there. We have 8 transfer stations where we have developed the material recovery facility, which we have now transformed into mechanized material recovery facility. The total generation is 1800 metric ton per day, out of which 1500 is being utilized to generate the compost. We have also we are also going to enter into agreement with NTPC to generate electricity from RDF. And presently we have compost, and the quality of the compost is such that it has been sold to Kripco. And last year Kripco got the award for the city compost. So the quality of compost is that much good, which meets to the FCO norms. We have also specialized waste management facilities over here. We have C&D waste management plant, e-waste management plant, plastic waste management plant, and the old dump site is also being remediated under the Smart City Mission. And biomining project is also taken up under the Swachh Bharat Mission. If you see the future planning of the city next, we are going to set up the household level compost plants. Bulk generators are also invited to set up facility of the 5 ton capacity. Private partners are also invited. Mechanical material recovery facility we are going to develop. And under CSR fund also, we have developed some organic waste converter. Recently, we have also received funds under the CSR to develop the organic waste converters. We are also going to tie up with IOCL for the organic waste to gas power plant. And this is how centralized waste processing plants also we have been running, and we are also going to set up a centralized waste processing facility for the waste which is being generated in a city. That's all for the city. I hope it is in line with our framework requirement, and we will definitely want to remain on the top in the future also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I hope I'm audible now. I had a bit of an internet snag. So we can see how Pune and Surat City have shared amazing initiatives that they have undertaken. They have leveraged on the government policies and initiatives and taken forward their practices on ground and created this range of sustainable practices that we can all learn from, that we can all take as a great initiative. So if any cities, any city official would like to know more about the initiatives taken by these cities, you can please indicate the same in the chat box, and we would definitely connect you with the city officials of Pune and Surat, and you can have a more detailed understanding of how these cities have taken forward such initiatives. Lastly, I would like to invite Hitesh sir for providing the closing remarks. Sir.
Thank you everyone for joining today for this launch of Climate Change and Cities Learning Series. I think a lot of things have been already discussed, and it was very fruitful discussion. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Professor O.P. Agarwal, not for only launching with NIUA this series, but also guiding in the whole capacity building discourse, which we're going to change within NIUA, also within the urban sector, to take it forward. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Joint Secretary Mr. Kunal Kumarji for taking time out to join us for the launch and share his inspiring remarks. I think they are very, very motivating, and really, I think that's the spirit with which we have to really actually start actioning our thoughts together. Because I was just today morning reading, and it was said that it's not only to learn, everybody gets the access to Bhagavad Gita. It's how much of that you imbibe in yourself and how much of that you really action it in your day-to-day life. I think that is where we need to do it. And I think thanks to Dr. Kolte and Mr. Pathan, who actually showed us that it was not the content, but applying that content to create an action on the ground. I think that is what we need to do, and every city has to do. And it's everybody gets the same education in the class, but some people really excel and some people remain backward because they spend that much of time in actioning. And I think Mr. Kunal Kumar has really given that motivation and inspiration to all of us to really start moving towards this action-oriented approach, and the focus should be on a local implementation, because only doing a climate assessment framework is just a starting point. It's not enough. It's just a starting point to move towards that action-oriented approach. So I thank all of my CQ team members and all the participants and panelists who have joined during this course. And NIUA as an institution which was created to create a bridge between the practice and policy. The idea is what was said, that whatever is happening on this different cities, all these small initiatives which different cities are doing, particularly Surat, excellent initiatives. How do we make that available to 4,000 urban local bodies? Can we create some kind of a learning environment? And that is the purpose of this learning series, is not just giving a knowledge, but giving those modules of someone how they can do it and others could not do it. What is that? So we need to move away from what to how. And I think that is the broad objective of this learning series. How do we move away from what to how, and then bring cities to share these experiences, share this knowledge together. And as an NIUA and WRI with a collaboration, we want to take this knowledge to a scale, not only limited to a small 126 urban local bodies which have done this, but to a scale. What Surat could do it, why not other cities can do it? And what are those key actions which Surat did it? I think that is the key which we want to take it forward. And at NIUA, we are happy to have a collaboration with all the partners who are there. And thank you everyone for making it happen on the climate assessment framework. But we want more collaboration, more partnership, and more handholding, not only for the cities, but as an institution, as a think tank of Government of India. How do we really become more impactful organization? And we need all your support moving forward. So thanks once again for joining to this event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So with that, we bring this event to a close. But Yes, so we bring this event to a close. I would like to thank everyone for joining the event, and we are initiating our the first session of this learning series later this week from 15th of July, and the first topic is on urban resilience. So do join us. This event is open for all city officials as well as urban practitioners, students, anyone who would like to know more about climate change in cities. So the details will be shared soon. It will be up on the website, and we hope to see maximum participation from all, because we all know that the knowledge we have amongst us, we need to share it and we need to enhance it. With that note, I would like to thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.